Good afternoon, everybody. We're joined by Mark Fisher. Mark is an influential member of the futures industry, a globally respected professional trader, a frequent guest on CNBC, and the best-selling author of The Logical Trader: Applying a Method to the Madness. Thanks for joining us, Mark. How are you?
Good, Mike. How was your Friday going?
Looking forward to the weekend. It's been an active week, and on that, everybody's been taking a look at Turkey all week. Everybody's all eye on Turkey, and commodity markets have been under pressure. What are you thinking right now when you look at the markets?
I think that, you can have a constrained energy market unless something goes crazy until the elections, because obviously that's gas prices at the pump are a hot topic. But I do think that the risk is all to the upside in energy, everything. Crude oil, heating oil, natural gas, everything. I think also that, you know, the whole world is bearish, bonds, which means that you can't be bearish bonds. And that you probably have to just, like everything else, sell good news and everything and buy bad news and everything, because that's really what seems to have been working the past couple of months. Otherwise, you just get chopped to death and everything.
Any reason, following up on that comment, any reason you think energy is the risk is to the upside?
Yeah, because I think that I don't think that we're putting, I think that supply is not going to increase to the level with whatever OPEC and Russia does. I think as long as the economies in the world stay relatively healthy and demand keeps growing, you can have these imbalances. So, like I said the last time, the way to I would trade it is to, via spreads, front month to back month spreads, you know, and again buying weakness with defined points of reference, or and definitely not selling strength. I know people disagree with that, but again, I think you're going to see a lot. If just like you saw before, if energy gets too high, you're going to see the administration come out and make all kinds of stuff because they want to keep energy capped until the election. But I think again, you've got all kinds of upside risk, with everything going on in Turkey and everything going on in the Middle East and Yemen. I think Iran. I think there's $5 down with a probability of 20% of that, and $5 up with a probability of 80% on that. So that's the risk reward.
What do you think's been the big change? Like a year ago, we were about $15 lower in crude, and people were really looking at range bound, and now a lot of people are looking more bullish. What's really changed, in your opinion?
Nothing, just people's perception. I mean, really, markets don't trade on reality; they trade on perception. And things trade
Absolutely.
on reality. So it's just people's perception has changed and people's dynamics have changed. You know,
Hey, Mark, we lost you for a second there.
you see can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, you're back.
You see all these countries that have come to the conclusion they don't want to be long any energy assets because of what it's done to the global global warming, etc. And with all that, you keep seeing all the private equity funds, KKR, Blackstone, they just keep piling more and more money into the energy sector. You know, and as long as I just think that there's a disconnect here. That it's all perception. Why is crude $67 versus $57 or $77? It's perception. It's not reality.
Right, right. Well,
You
that
know
makes sense.
what I mean. You can ask Larry what trades on reality. Nothing. Maybe mortgage bonds trade on reality. But stocks don't trade on reality. Future commodities don't trade on reality. You know
Yeah,
they
I
trade on.
think I think you hear a lot of that from Larry and a lot of the other people. Absolutely, especially where equities are right now. It seems it's just a money flow thing and perception, like you said. So you've been commenting actually for the past few weeks when you've been coming on about metal market specifically being under pressure, and we saw it this week with some pressure. Any sort of thoughts based on this recent sell-off? We saw a lot of pressure this week in all the metals: copper, silver, gold, platinum. Any thoughts here in those metals?
They had pretty big declines and they bounced a little bit, so I wouldn't be surprised to go high. But ultimately, I don't think you can be long any of this until Venezuela is out of the way. You know, Venezuela has to. If you have a forced seller in any market, doesn't matter what the realities are. The market's going to clean out that seller before it turns. So Venezuela is not done. When Venezuela is done, it'll probably be time to buy the market. Not yet.
Yeah, you've been all over that for a few weeks now. What about any other trades you're looking at right now based on the SEP roll or looking at the forward curve in oil?
Well, natural gas has had a pretty good rally because everyone's worried about what's going to happen to this winter, right? And the question is, is the market comfortable going off the board short September below $3? And I think they are, because I think that hurricanes have become non-events. So I think the market on the upside, unless you get some real craziness, is probably capped at around, with another 5 cents to the upside in natural. I think that energy sold off again. I think that crude oil, like I said, I think that the way it trades is through backwardation. I think that's going to be, especially right after the election, the backwardation. I think you're going to see a lot of backwardation coming to the marketplace. And I think that in terms of grain prices, it's pretty interesting that after that bearish, WASDE report, that corn and everything's come back pretty good. And I think that probably, you could take a stab there. And I think also that, I've been fascinated by this whole Tesla thing. Fascinated.
I think everybody has. Amazing story.
I don't know what's going to happen here, but, it seems to me that the stock's either going to go to $50 or $500 or $450, and nothing in between. It's not staying here. So I don't know. I don't know Larry would know better than me. I don't know what the volatility of these options are, but, I just saw that there's this whole interview with Elon Musk saying that he takes Ambien to go to sleep, working 120 hours a week. Who knows what? But the stock's not staying at. Where's the stock, Larry? Where's Tesla's trading right now? 330.
No, 310. It's down $25 on the day right now.
Right. Okay. Well, it's not staying at 310.
Yeah.
It's either going to 100 or back to 420.
Well,
so I don't know.
Yeah, it's been August. It's been not as many topics this week. Volatility picked up, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever he came out with that, it really spiked interest. The amount of people mentioning it on Twitter, and the stock's been all over the place. And even before he made those comments, it was one of the most talked about stocks with people so passionately bearish, and it's everybody's talking about it.
Again, I'm not saying that I'm bearish or bullish because I don't really have an edge there to say one way or the other. But it's not going to stay here. That's for sure. Either someone's going to win.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story everybody's looking at. So I wanted to pick your brain on something else. You have hundreds of traders that have managed capital for you over the years. You're very experienced managing traders, and what would you say to a younger trader who's starting to take capital from outside investors for the first time?
Well, number one, I don't really consider myself a risk manager. I consider myself more a fire chief. Like I sit there, like I've done for all these years, and like in your house, if everything's good with your stove, the fire department doesn't come over and say, "Oh, Mike, everything's working well." They're there just to put out fires. So the idea is that as a risk manager, you really just to put out the traders' fires, and when everything's going okay, just to leave them alone. Because the worst thing you want to do is interrupt a trader when they're in good rhythm. And the thing you want to do is be like a doctor, that the minute there's some cancer in the trader system, you want to rip it out before it spreads through their whole trading body, for lack of a better word. But the thing that I would tell you is that less and less people have game plans today. They go in and they know, oh, this thing's going up, but they have no idea where to get out if they're wrong. And I think more and more you have to know where you're getting out before you worry about what the upside is, in terms of, and then you can assess risk reward. On top of that, I think people think they know everything about everything. People ask me all the time, what do I know about this, and this? What do I think? And most of the time, the answer is I have no clue. You can't have an ego because I have no clue is the right answer. But people think they have an opinion about everything. And when you have, opinions, if you have an opinion about everything, it's probably worthless. But in terms of a new trader, I would say is, the thing I would keep above my desk is a sign that says, what's my edge? And if there is no edge and you can't define it, then don't trade. The most successful traders I know sit in front of their screens or whatever they're doing and come up with stuff, and 90% of the time do absolutely nothing. And that's a very hard thing to do, to sit there for 90% of the time and do absolutely nothing. And those are the ones that become, that are successful. The ones that can sit on their hands and wait for the opportunities, as opposed to thinking they got to be in the market all day long.
Do you see from a lot of the traders and trends and people you speak to that there still continue to be a lot of people that overtrade the markets? Do you think that's a problem?
Not a problem, but it's a huge, it's ridiculous. I think you should trade bigger, less trades larger than just keep trading like a Looney Tune all day. You know,
Would you advise people to focus on one or two instruments, or more of a basket, 10, 12 different things to look at?
it depends wherever you think you have an edge. Sometimes you have an edge in one thing. Sometimes you may think you have an edge in 12 things. It's wherever you can define an edge. You know.
Yeah.
And if you can't explain someone your edge in 2 minutes, then you have no edge.
What do you think, from speaking to a few different guys, like what sort of edge, these days a lot of computers have taken out, whether it be correlations or different things. From discretionary traders, what sort of edges are you hearing that a lot of people, that maybe seem to be working?
The big thing that for traders is you should have a network of people. And the network of people you trade with is when everyone tells you one thing and they're all wrong intuitively, and you can figure out why they're wrong, and you can, and you have, and your technicals and fundamentals can prove to why they're wrong, then those are the trades that work. It's when you can't trade in an isolated box, being in an igloo talking to nobody. You got to be talking to people and be able to listen and adapt. But an edge, again, for a trader who's not a high frequency trader, unless you're developing algorithmic strategies, which we do a lot. If you're going to trade just as a discretionary push the button trader, you need to really say, what is my advantage in this hand? So for instance, you need to find, if the blackjack analogy, you need to find the hands where you have 11s and the dealer has a 5 or a 6, and if you can't feel that those trades are like that, then you just got to sit there and just muck your cards away. You can't, I'm trying to say it's the same thing. It's the same thing like playing poker, for instance. You have to have the patience, especially as an amateur, to muck your hands. And again, if you're playing with people who are better than you, you definitely have to be patient and muck your hands and and manage your chip stack. Otherwise, it's a no-win game.
Well, you just mentioned the keyword poker, so I thought I'd follow up. I read something online that you might have done pretty well in a poker tournament this week. Tell me a little bit about it.
No, so me like everybody else, we think we're more than we are. So I want to go ahead and just waste my time and spend a couple of days playing against the best of the best and seeing how bad I am. And I got lucky this time and played completely random, and I did better than I thought I would do. So I was a chip leader at the final table, made some crazy, up and down moves because I didn't want to get red. Everyone could see the whole cards, and then it kind of worked out, and that was the end of it. But again, that's nothing more than seeing, that'd be like me, wanting to play, one-on-one with Michael Jordan. Obviously I'm not going to win. I may hit a lucky shot or two, but these guys do it for a living and they have an edge. Again, that's an exact example that it's just it was just, I knew it was just a hobby, and I just happened to A, get a good run of cards, and B, I play completely random.
It sounds like you're being modest. You started in a tournament with some of the best in the world, 120 people, and finished 5th.
Yeah, but I should have finished even better. But it's a matter of discipline and a matter of being random. Again, and what you think is going to work is never going to work there, because they're going to read you every time if you're an amateur. So you have to be completely upside down, which I was. Which who knows?
Who ended up winning the tournament?
Oh, the two guys that should have won it. I don't know. I don't know their names, but the two guys who won collectively 40 million between them, picked up another, I don't know, between them another 1.3 million. So
that's impressive. So, actually I have 2 questions. In our intro video, or in a few of the videos that are on the main page, you reference at one point staying mentally fit. One thing that you do is you read a lot. And so a bunch of people have been asking, what does Mark Fisher read typically on a given week? Like, what are a few things you take a look at?
I read all the publications I read a lot of bank credit analyst stuff. I read a lot of the Goldman Sachs stuff. I read JP Morgan stuff. I read the Financial Times. I read Dennis Gartman. I read high-tech strategists. I read Barron's. I read Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. I read all kinds of publications that are out there. I read who's that guy? Gloom, Boom, and Doom. I read everything because I like to get a various assortment of things. Because really, what I'm looking for is, yes, I'm looking to be educated, but I'm looking for topics where there's a consensus of opinion where I feel that they're wrong. And if you can see that, this is wrong, this is wrong. No, they agree, this is wrong, this is wrong. That's where you develop an edge. Some people read for informational purposes. I read to go ahead and see, not just for information, but to see where in which instruments do I feel people are just leaning all one way and are wrong.
When do you typically read? First thing in the morning, late at night, during the day? What's your typical reading pattern?
No, I read all the time, whenever I can. Late at night I spend a lot of time reading. Early in the morning. I mean, I sleep 3 hours a day, so it gives me a lot of flexibility.
3 hours doesn't sound like that's what the doctor recommends.
What is it? What do they know? So
Are you mostly reading on a tablet, or are you?
no, I read off my phone. I read newspapers. I read off the computer. I read off everything. I'm not. I'm agnostic to what I read off of.
Yeah, yeah. And then just following up on the last, you read everything like you said. Is there any sort of markets that you feel right now are heavily oversold or overbought based on, just market opinion?
I think that everyone is, believe it or not, is bearish the stock market, right? And I think less people are involved, and yet the markets is amazingly resilient, right? So I think that that's another thing of bad news, good action. I think that no one thinks that natural gas is ever going to trade $4 again, which means at some point it's going to trade $5 or $6 or $7. I think that as before, you could never do it, but now I think you could. Just like people have made a ton of money just selling puts in the stock market for the last 15 years. I think now you can start selling puts indiscriminately in the commodity markets, and collect premium there too, like they used to do in the stock market. And I think the whole risk parity theory is going to get blown out sometime in the next 5 years when, the shift from where they do all these algorithms shift from bonds to equities and gold and cash, and they just try to maximize returns. I think that whole formula so many people are doing it now in so many different ways that there's going to be a big hiccup in that. There's going to be I really think that in the long run, in that whole space, there's going to be a long-term capital management hiccup in there. I just don't know. It may happen next month. It may not happen for 5 years, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. And you just referenced natural gas, by the way. So yesterday, I'm sure you noticed, it came out with their energy numbers, their inventory numbers, and nat gas actually traded down in SEP to 290 or so, and everybody was bearish and quite resilient today. We're actually up about 5 cents, up about 1.5% to this 295. So that's pretty interesting, especially given this whole week's energy and metal and commodity sell-off. Nat gas has been pretty resilient.
Right, but I told you, like I said last time, the time to buy natural gas is when it gaps open 15, 20 or higher and doesn't look back. 5 cents up, 5 cents down, who knows? Someone may know next week's report. The EIA is coming out with changing their stats in a couple of weeks, who knows? But when you get a move that's, in a real move, who cares about the first 20 cents? Nobody. So, that's what I would look for. I think that, I think the market pretty much is capped here for a little bit, but I could be wrong. But if there's a gap, and the gap stays open on volume, that's when you want to get involved.
Interesting. All right, well, I'll let you run on that. It was great talking with you. Great information as always.
All right, have a good weekend, guys.
All right, thanks for joining us, Mark. Talk to you soon.